Alexander Marinoff. In line with today's theme, change, personal, group, and beyond, Alex will examine our tendency to stereotype people or put people in boxes. We'll examine our tendency, how that affects us and our interaction with people, and what to do with our tendency to stereotype.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. I'm extremely excited to be in the same group today with some of my favorite speakers in the club. I have a great topic that I'd like to share. I've always had it in my mind, and I thought this would be a great context for that. It has to do with group management, collaboration, people interaction in general, and stereotyping, or putting personalities into boxes. So I'll take you back 5 years ago when I was still at San Francisco State, taking a class called the Rasa Studies or Latin American Studies. And one of the first exercises that we had to do was come up with all the stereotypes about Mexicans. I'm not looking at Omar, I know he's not Mexican. And so this is the list we came up with. What people know here in America about Mexicans is that they always seem to be riding a bicycle. Most likely they're illegal. They do work in your backyard somewhere. They have a mustache. They have a big kind of sombrero hat. They speak funny English. They can't speak English at all. They are like depicted as thieves in movies and whatnot. They drive like broken down cars, and that's the stereotype. You think of Mexican, that's what comes to mind. And so the purpose of the class, this is one of our cultural anthropology segments class, was to study that and figure out, where do all these things come from? Turns out a lot of these things are pushed, maybe intentionally, maybe by accident, by the so-called, by the broad screen, by the TV, by the media, by Hollywood, and these guys are always depicted as such in those movies. And so what happens is we have all this imagery in our brain that, if you're a Mexican, you must be like all these things that we've seen on TV or in the movies, so therefore you are like them. And this is what we came to examine a little bit deeper. And so the psychological explanation of this is, why do we have to do this in the first place? We already know that this is maybe not very logical. Why are we doing it? Turns out people feel more secure about things they know about. Right? If you know something, you feel secure about it. If you don't know what you're going into, you're kind of apprehensive, what's going to happen, UFOs are going to, what are they going to do to us? We don't know something, we're scared of it. And then we tend to make stuff up in order to feel good, in order to make ourselves feel more secure. So therefore, we make stuff up to feel safer. So that's kind of like the logic, the progression. The scientific explanation of this is that our brain is one of the biggest engine, the biggest chemical generator in our body. Our body is about 60 to 70, 75% water, which makes for the perfect environment for chemical reactions to take place and to depend on what our brain feeds us. The problem with that setup, however great this is, and you get inspired, the brain, sends great thoughts, great, impulses to your body. Your body is only mostly water, so it reacts great. So if you think positive things, you're always inspired. You tend to accomplish great things. However, the problem with that setup is that the brain doesn't always distinguish between what it's seen, what it's stored somewhere in its cache memory, so to speak, and what's right now. So the brain tends to assume this is the same thing. So all the stuff that we've seen, overheard, at dinner tables, bars, and whatnot, they kind of become the stereotype for something, the generalization. And so everybody's reality is a little bit different, right? And therefore, everybody has tendencies to stereotype things differently. And the problem with all that is that stereotyping prevents us from seeing the big picture and evaluating things for what they're really worth. And because we can't always read people's minds, at least when we're in managerial positions, we should always try to pick the best people. And if we try to stereotype or subconsciously stereotype them, whether or not we realize this, we may not end up with the right people in the first place, or we may not set up the right context for their work environment. And so if we really want to win friends and influence people, we should try to deal with the stereotypes in the following 3 steps. This is a piece what we got out of this Russell studies class. Number 1, we are aware of those stereotypes. We know that we have a tendency to make them up subconsciously, whether we like it or not. So step 1, make them up, admit it that you've made up those assumptions about people and put them into boxes. And then the 3rd step is drop them immediately. It's not something we are conscious of it, so it's not something we can prevent. It's not something we can escape. We are a product of our experiences. The brain always reacts to what we see. So just, make up stereotypes, nothing wrong with that, admit them, and then drop them immediately, and then move on. Thank you.